Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. So we still have a couple of minutes to our Kopi session, and we wanted to take this time to just get to know all the speakers better. So for today's session, we have Sakina, Hassan, and Popo joining us. And yeah, could you share with us, are you an early bird or night owl, and when are you most productive?
I'm somewhat in between. I don't know. It honestly depends on the mood. Sometimes I'm an early riser. Okay, I'll be the most productive at like 7 in the morning. At other times, I'll be most productive at 5 in the morning. I guess you could call me an early bird because
That's really early.
Yeah.
I remember reading this meme somewhere, and they were like, "I'm just an exhausted pigeon."
Seriously, yeah.
I was like, I'm neither early bird or night owl, both. That was funny. How about you, Hassan? How are you?
For me, So when I was living in Korea during my earlier career, like I was staying up until 2 or 3 every day. But then I remember in morning, I'm always sleepy and sleeping on bench in office. Like, you fall down on bench, right? So then I think after a couple of years working there, I make this like kind of pact that I will not work after 12. So 12 is my limit. Yeah. After that, I have no energy. Even during hackathons, I'm like useless after 12. But I can wake up early to do coding because I remember for exams in undergraduate or masters, we used to study in morning when your brain is fresh. We can do mathematics early, right? So yeah, so I changed from night owl to morning, but not very early, but still I prefer morning more than staying up late night.
Yeah, I guess your body adapts over time too, regardless.
Yeah.
I definitely napped at work a couple of times after late night. So I don't think it's almost like you just switch when you sleep, right? Eventually you're still you still need to sleep about the same amount.
Yeah, I think 6 hours, 5 hours sleep is like you need it. So either you're gonna sleep late, then you will wake up late, or you sleep early, then you will wake up early. So yeah.
How about you, Popo? You look like the early riser, so are you?
No, actually I rise with the moon. Yeah, so I'm a night owl. I usually see around 2 or 3 at night.
Wow.
And wake up in the morning around like 9. So maybe most productive will be like afternoon or late evening. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of
what
like
about
get into
you, Dennis?
engine build up. I can be both, but no matter what time I sleep, I wake up at 7 a.m. So I try not to sleep too late because I'm gonna wake up at 7. So even if I were to work late and sleep at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m., I'm still gonna be up at 7 and I cannot sleep. So yeah, I try to be a morning person instead.
Wow.
What about
That's
weekend?
really early.
Weekend? No, it doesn't change. It wakes up at 7
really?
o'clock. My body is broken.
Okay.
Oh no.
Okay, it only happened when I got a little bit older. So
okay.
When I was younger, I could sleep for days. I don't have to wake up.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, everyone. I think we got to know everyone a little better about how long you sleep, what time you sleep and wake up.
We know when to call you and prank call you next time.
Yeah. So yeah, and I think it's 8 p.m. We'll be starting our session really soon. Meanwhile, we'll move the speakers backstage and we'll see everyone in a short while.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Yep. Hi everyone. A big hello to all of you. I'm Jia Xing. And this is Jenny.
Abbas. Hi, we're both from the Google Developer Relations team looking after our developer and startup community in the Southeast Asia region.
Yep. Thanks for joining us for Kopi today, and we hope everyone is keeping safe and well wherever you are. Do leave a comment in our live chat and let us know where you're tuning in from.
And in case we have friends who are joining us here for the first time, let us share a little bit about who we are, what we do, and what this is all about. So Google Developers Space is a home for developers and startups from around the region to learn, connect, engage, and be inspired. We want to empower and connect our community to our people, programs, network, and technologies here at Google.
And Kopi at Developer Space is a monthly open mic night for the developer community to learn, connect, and be inspired by one another. Every month, a tech team is selected and developers submit their topics to be shared with the community. So for this month, our topic is mobile development.
Mobile development, super exciting.
And tonight, we have a total of 3 speakers joining us. They will each be sharing for 10 minutes, and you're welcome to submit your questions on YouTube or Facebook live chat, which we'll answer after each speaker. For this Kopi, we have Sakina from ReacTree sharing how you can fight panic attacks with game development in Flutter, and Hassan from BeLive sharing what's new in Kotlin 1.4, and Popo from Shoot on how you can build Android SDK for seamless integration.
I see that Hassan already have fan club who's already tuning in. So yeah, say hi to everyone on the comment section, and we'll love to see who's here, where are you from. And without further ado, let us welcome our very first speaker today, Sakina Abbas. So Sakina is the CEO of ReacTree and is also one of our recent Women Developer Academy graduate. So yay to more women in tech speakers, and we cannot wait to hear about her project. She'll be sharing about how she uses Flutter to, just in a few hours, build a minimalistic yet impactful, and this is very dangerous, addictive game. So let's hear it from Sakina.
Hello, everyone. Hello, my favorite fellow mobile developers. I hope you're having a wonderful day. And thank you for the wonderful introduction, Janice. That was really quite amazing. So today we have a very interesting and an exciting topic to share with you guys. It's all about game development in Flutter. And you'll learn to your surprise that Flutter basically transcends cross-platform application development, and you can actually harness it to create your own game in just a couple of hours, right? Now, for those of you who don't know me, hello, my name is Sakina Abbas. Despite the amazing introduction that I was just given, I am the co-founder and CEO of my own software house, ReacTree. We specialize in web applications and mobile applications development. I started off as a native Android developer and then eventually transitioned to Flutter development, which is what I'm currently doing at ReacTree. I'm heading the DevOps and the Flutter development at my company. I'm also a core member of Flutter Karachi, Pakistan that I joined just recently. It is basically a cult of Flutter developers from my city, so it's awesome. Now, before we actually delve into game development per se, let me ask you a question. What is it that makes a great mobile game? Maybe it's the graphics of a game that really attracts you to play it. Maybe it's the gameplay, like you really enjoy what you have to do in order to proceed forward, in order to progress in the game. Maybe it's the story. Some games have a really nice storyline attached with, like Angry Birds. But when it comes to mobile games, performance and size of the game itself are very important and, in fact, key performance indicators of whether this game is going to be good or bad. Why is that? Because you may have the best storyline ever, you may have good graphics and all, but if your game is too huge, if it's too bulky in size, or if it's perhaps overheating your phone too badly and too quickly, then that's not a great mobile game, right? your mobile games, they need to have performant games. Your mobile devices can only run performant games. You don't want the game to be taking up too much space on your phone so that you have to uninstall other applications, right? So a great mobile game is finally one that really keeps you hooked into playing it, so much so that when you're playing it, no matter how many times your mom calls you that food is ready, you're like, Mom, I can't right now, I'm playing this game. So the question arises, can a mobile application developer develop mobile games? And the answer is yes, you definitely can. And the best part is that Flutter actually makes the experience easier and faster. And this is coming from someone who loves to play games, okay? But I don't have that much knowledge of developing games. I have tried my hands a few times at Unity and even a native Android. But when I actually created my first game in Flutter, the experience was somewhat pretty much different. And this really inspired to give me this talk today. So this is the game that I created as a pet project some weeks ago. It's a bubble popping game. As you can see, a rule is displayed at the top, and there are some bubbles on the screen, and you have to pop those bubbles in accordance with that rule. So if the rule says that pop the reds, you only have to pop the red bubbles in succession in order to proceed to the next level. If you make any wrong move, it's game over, all right? Now, this is a very simple game, yes, but here's what I would like to tell you. Sometimes you just really have to focus more on gameplay. If the gameplay is good, then no matter how simple, how minimalistic your game actually looks, people are still going to play it. A valid example is Among Us, the imposter game that I'm sure everyone has heard of. So this game itself has multiple features, which I will be going through very briefly so as to give you an overview of how you can structure your own game in Flutter, and basically what are the components of a game that you need to pay attention to when developing it, right? So every game has a rule, okay? Rules are important for gameplay. This game has multiple game rules. I'm actually using 6 different rules for this game. Then obviously every game needs a game logic, all right? So we have a game logic for leveling up or playing again, meaning you play the same level again. The best part is that this game has infinite levels. So you may play up to 1000th level, and if you succeed in finishing that level, you will still proceed on to the 1001st level. So it has infinite levels. There is coding for difficulty management to render rule according to the level. And this game is 100% offline. You don't need an active internet connection to play this game. Now, there are 2 parts of this game that I would be discussing with you. One is the layout, and the other is the game logic itself. So let's quickly overview the layout. We have our normal scaffold, and inside the scaffold, we have our normal app bar, nothing unusual. Our body is a simple column. Then inside the column, you can see we have different widgets as children. We have the level text. We have the text for the level. We have the text for the rule. We have a grid view dot builder for the bubbles. And then we have a button at the very bottom. This is used for when This is used for when a user gets a rule and there are no bubbles that align with that rule. So it's like, don't fool me, okay? So that's just a button. For the bubbles itself, I have created a custom stateful widget, which is a bubble widget, okay? As you can see, each bubble has its own color to it, and I have applied some sort of shadow to give it a shadowy, a shiny effect. Now, as you can see, each bubble, it takes certain set of parameters. This one's taking the color and rule color, for instance, all right? What these parameters are basically doing, I will be telling you very soon. Now, you noticed earlier that when in the demo, in the GIF that was playing, whenever the user proceeds forward to the next level, we get this nice overlay. Okay, in order to get this overlay, I have basically wrapped my entire column inside a stack so that my column, my bubbles, all my text and buttons, they're on the layer 0. Okay, they're at the very bottom of the stack. And then there's this glossy widget, which is nothing but a container with some opacity set so as to give that translucent effect. And that's on top of it. Okay, so that's what a stack does for all those beginners who are not familiar with these concepts. Okay, and then this container simply has a column with 2 widgets inside. One is the text widget for the game over or next level. And then we have the play again or the proceed forward to the next level button. Now, the very interesting part is the game rules, okay? Often when I would play games, I would wonder, where do they store these rules? How are the rules formed? And I just figured out that, okay, the simplest way of doing is that you can actually store your rules, you can create your rules and store them inside a map. Right? Now, as you can see, I have a map with the key as string and the value as a custom class that I created by the name of rule. Now, as you can see, let's consider the first one. The key is C, C meaning color, and the value is rule where color is true. Okay. So what does my rule class do? It basically has like 3 parameters. Okay, by default, all of them are false, and then I've when I'm creating each rule, I'm just tweaking its attributes. So C means that the color is true. The rule has something to do with color. N means the rule has something to do with number. So for instance, pop the bubbles that are just multiples of 3, right? And then so on and so forth. All the other rules have been generated by different combinations of the first 2. Right? So as you can see, the last one is the very complicated and advanced one. TNC means the timer is active and the rule is like, so you have 5 seconds. Within 5 seconds, pop all the black bubbles that are multiples of 3, right? So that's how I basically stored my rules. And where I'm using my rules, it's basically inside the game logic, inside the bubble widget itself, where I'm handling that when a user presses a button, what function is triggered? What's the behavior? Whenever a user presses a bubble in order to pop it, it detects what the rule is. It detects it using a switch statement. Okay, so for instance, the rule is C, and it says, okay, so the rule is C. What is the color of the bubble, and what is the rule color? The rule color that was generated at the top. Okay. It matches these values in order to determine whether the user made the right move or the wrong move. Now, the second best part, the second interesting functionality of this game is the infinite levels. Now, as a novice, this question might occur to you. So we have infinite levels. How would we do the coding for the layout? Since you have 6 rules stored, do you design a separate screen for each rule? So like 6 screens for 6 rules? You can, but I would say I didn't do that. This game that you are actually seeing is just one screen. That's it, it's just one screen, okay? And how I did that, let me tell you. So first of all, I'm not storing the level in any database, no online database, no offline database. I'm actually storing it and retrieving from shared preferences. For those who don't know what shared preferences is, it's a cache management system for mobiles, all right? So basically, whenever the user progresses on to the next level, the level is incremented by 1, and it is stored in the cache, meaning shared preferences. Then when the screen is reloaded, the level is fetched from shared preferences. It detects what the level is. It checks which difficulty level does this level fall in, and then it generates a rule from the 6 rules that we saw earlier on the fly, on the go. So everything is dynamic. Nothing is static. The level isn't static. The rule isn't static. The bubbles aren't static. The colors of the bubbles aren't static. The numbers on the bubbles aren't static. The timer isn't static. Nothing is static. It's all being generated on the fly, on the go. So once it has detected, okay, let's suppose the level is 1. I should render a simpler rule, let's say number or color. That's the simplest one, okay? It renders that rule, and then the bubbles are populated according to that rule. And then the user just has to pop those bubbles in accordance with the rule. The game logic I've already defined you. Each bubble is enclosed inside a gesture detector in order to detect the press of a bubble or of a bubble, and based on the correct or incorrect move, the overlay message is rendered. Okay. Now the interesting part is that we're just using one screen for this entire game. It's just one screen to rule it all. So how do you actually reload the screen? Do you have to reset the rule? Do you have to reset the bubbles? Nothing. The simplest way is to just use navigator.push replacement names. So what it will do is that it will take out this current screen from the stack and it will put on another screen, and all of those shared preferences, the dynamic rule generation, the bubbles generation, everything will happen dynamically on the go. So you don't even have to code multiple screens for multiple rules. You can just handle that with one screen if you know where to code, what to code. Now, you might ask me, why Flutter? I mean, typically when we speak about game development, it's Unreal or Unity or perhaps even native Android, right? Well, my answer to you would be that Flutter offers simple and fast state management, so it's easier to code. It also provides you a blank canvas, which gives you high customization. You can just code out your layout as you want to, however you want to. It produces a very lightweight game that's highly performant. Why? Because Flutter uses its own engine, which is Skia, in order to render all the graphics on the screen. So it's already performant by default. So if you even add your own performant, if you even just optimize the performance yourself, it'll be even more performant. And by default, Flutter app sizes, they're not that great. They're not that huge. Okay, they're small, tiny. And then lastly, it's quick to create and it's extremely developer friendly. And this is, again, coming from someone who has already tried her hands at different frameworks in order to develop games. And I have been successfully able to develop a game with Flutter. I did it in about just like one day, in just a couple of hours. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. So if you want to create your own games and you are a mobile application developer, do consider Flutter. If you're already a Flutter developer, you don't need to learn any new frameworks or new languages. You can just reuse what you already know in order to create your own game. So that's pretty much about it. If you have any questions, let me know. And these are my contact details that you can feel free to reach out to me too.
Thank you, Sakina. That was a really good presentation, and I'm so glad you explored, building your own gameplay just with Flutter. It's great to know it's so easy.
Thank you.
And I think now, while we're waiting for some questions from the audience, let's go through some questions we received during registration. So,
Okay.
yeah. I think we got a question. Janice, do you want to show it? Okay.
Sorry?
No, it's fine. Yeah, so I think, this question, what are the benefits of using Flutter over native programming?
Wow, so many. I actually gave my very first session, my very first talk on Flutter on this particular question. So basically, in native programming, the most complicated thing is that if you're creating the same application for multiple platforms like Android and iOS, then it's already time consuming to code that entire thing in native Android and then replicate it in native iOS. Okay. But other than that, even when let's just consider you're just developing one application for just one platform, not iOS. Okay, let's consider Android. There are so many things in Android that really make your code bulky. Okay, it's a fat code that for a very small task, you will have to create 3 different files. Okay, so like we were just exploring the gridview.builder, the function that rendered my entire grid of bubbles, it was probably this much, okay, which is about like 10 to 15 lines of code with all the parameters passed. If you were to do the same thing in native Android, you would first have to create a recycler view, then you would first have to create an adapter, and then you would then have to link the UI with the programming language, which is Java or Kotlin, whatever you're using. So that's basically the one of the best benefits of using Flutter over native programming. So yeah.
Wow, thanks for explaining. Yeah. I think meanwhile we're waiting for the questions to come in. So, but just conscious of time, I think we'll move on to our next presentation. So yeah, feel free to head over, still leave your questions in the YouTube or Facebook live chats, and Sakina will head over to answer them. Next up, we have Hassan, the tech lead at BeLive Singapore, as well as a Google Developer Expert Android. He'll be sharing how Kotlin, a favorite language of Android developers, has evolved over the past 1 year. And he'll be going through the new language features of Kotlin 1.4, along with examples. Yep, the stage is yours, Hassan.
Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, so just now you heard a very interesting talk from Sakina. Like you must be thinking, go and search about Flutter. I will give you guys more headache. We have Kotlin. With Kotlin also you can do multi-platform, iOS, Android, web, server side. So let's talk about Kotlin today. Yeah, so about myself, I work as tech lead in a Singapore-based startup. We make live streaming solutions. And we have offices in Vietnam and China. And I have been in Singapore for the last 3 years. Before, I used to stay in South Korea. And I have my own website where I post some stuff. So I didn't update this website. Maybe after this, I'll go and update about some online talks. So Kotlin is not new. It's been 4 years that it is being used by like especially the Android community. And you can see like over the last 1 year, there have been 5.8 million people who have edited Kotlin code because Kotlin is open source. It's maintained and owned by JetBrains. So this shows the popularity of the language. So today, I'm just like, because of the time constraint, just going to give you overview of Kotlin 1.4, which is Kotlin's biggest update ever. So we'll talk about some language features, and there are some interesting things at the end. So please stay tuned. Also, for this whole event, right, at the end, you might be able to get some virtual, some gifts. So please stay tuned. Yeah. So for language, right, there are a couple of things I want to show you guys today. The main one is the SAM conversion. It's mostly about Lambda conversion. Then we will talk about explicit API mode, some mixed name arguments, and there are a couple of others. So the first one is just to like let you know. So these all new features are actually available in Kotlin 1.4. You can download the new IntelliJ ID, or you can use Android Studio and update Kotlin plugin to 1.4. That's how you can use the new features. So yeah, so just like to explain what it is, I'll just deep dive into the demo to let you know what is this all about. So before Kotlin 1.4, right, when we write an interface, we usually, let's say this interface has only one abstract function. Then when we try to like use like this, make an object of this interface, we cannot avoid this function. So we have to have an anonymous class. So this was one problem when any like interface you're writing in Kotlin, you have to bear this kind of syntax. But for Java, right? So I have one interface in Java, but from Java to Kotlin, you can use Lambda expression. So here it shows me a little bit. If I go here, right? So it will show me this kind of option. convert to Lambda. So with one line, we can do something like this. But same kind of thing we can do with Kotlin. I will give you an example. So we have this function. So basically, we will just replace with Kotlin, and we're going to just remove this, make it simpler. Yeah, okay, so this one. Okay, and now if I see right, so I can basically use Kotlin to, I can remove this code for you guys. So basically, I just need to add this fun parameter here. Then this will be Lambda expression in Kotlin. Then I can use something like this. So it's pretty neat. This was not available before. And if I try to run, right, so let me run this one and show you the results. Yeah. So meanwhile, this code is running. I can, yeah, okay. So you can see like, okay, this code is running. So this is a big advantage. I'll go back to my slides. So second language feature, which is very nice, is explicit API mode. So basically, like before, like when you are creating some Kotlin API, you don't know which are public APIs, which are private APIs. So now you get this kind of warnings, and over there, actually, you can add those. So this is also a nice feature. Yeah. So yeah, so I think you have to add this kind of explicit API kind of in the Gradle file, and then you can get like those warnings. So there's another problem we used to have before. So there's hello, for example, hello world function, and then you have these named parameters, right? So once like you start using the name arguments like y equal to false, so after that, any subsequent argument you have to name also. But in Kotlin 1.4, actually, we are able to solve this. You can see this example. So we have hello world here. And then once you have y equal to true, after that, you can go back to normal one. We don't need to name it anymore. So this was like some feedback from many developers. Kotlin at JetBrains, like they decided to make this feature available in 1.4. And for this, I can also like show you how it works. So I have, for example, this kind of function, right? Yeah, I have this kind of function, and then if I try to use this function hello world here, then I can write one y equal to false. Then I can just write something. Yeah. So this is how it works. So it's pretty cool and very helpful for especially Android developers or anyone who is writing code in Kotlin. So let's go back to my slides. So next feature, which is very interesting, is actually a break and continue. I think many of you know this. Every time we have to finish a loop in event statement, we have to use this at the rate of loop, but with 1.4, actually, you don't need to add this. So you just write continue or break. So this is also a new addition in 1.4. Okay, so these were some of the like Kotlin language features. There are some others also you can check on the website. I will share at the end. But let's talk about some other exciting stuff with Kotlin, because all of you know that Kotlin is not only used for like Android development, it's also being used for making iOS apps. At the same time, it's being used for making JavaScript and some server-side code. And most recently, the Kotlin multi-platform is very popular, where actually you have one project you can target for Android and iOS together. So earlier, you guys hear this presentation about Flutter. Flutter can also allow you to make iOS and Android applications using same code base, right? So Kotlin can provide you similar features. Previously, actually, like many developers had issue because you had to manually configure your project and everything. So today I will show you like how you can use the Kotlin IntelliJ IDE to basically create a new multi-platform project and start writing code immediately. So for Kotlin more native, right? So Kotlin native is basically used for making iOS apps. And the new feature support for Kotlin native suspending functions. Those are coming from coroutines. Now you can use them in Swift. At the same time, you can use these debug symbols when you create iOS targets. So these are useful for checking crashletics, like crashes, once you publish your app. And the last thing is actually Cocos pods, because usually when we like create projects, iOS projects nowadays using Xcode, we use pods. But here actually what we can do is like we can use IntelliJ IDE to manage our pods. We don't need to migrate to Xcode. So this is very interesting. And so this is one example of suspend functions. In Kotlin 1.4, you can write suspend function like query data, and then you can use the same in Swift as more like a Lambda function, yeah, a callback function. Okay, let's talk about Kotlin multi-platform. I will show you some demo for this also. So this is a new project wizard in IntelliJ latest version. You can download from JetBrains site. So when you click on project new, you can see this kind of like project wizard where you can choose like different projects. So I can show you live here. Okay, so I go to project, and yeah, so you can see like I can choose JVM application, which is mostly like the server side application. Then I have the multi-platform. So I have mobile application, mobile library, then just an application. It's just like Kotlin application. Then I have library, just library. And you see the targets are on the right side. You can configure those targets. And I have native application. So native application is just used for making iOS app. And then you also have full stack web development. So this kind of like project, creating new project, made it very easy. So it will set up everything for you. Previously, many developers had pain when they had to make a multi-platform project. They had to manually configure everything. So I have created a project for you guys already. Let me just share with you. So this is a Kotlin multi-platform project. You can see I have my Android app, I have my iOS app code, then I have the shared code. So this is all the shared code between two platforms. So Android app code will be all written in like Kotlin, and you can use all the the Android libraries here. So you can see all these activity and all the familiar stuff here. And similarly for iOS, one interesting thing is that this app will use Swift UI, which is more like Jetpack Compose. So I can show you here. So they make this kind of view using Swift UI, which is which is like very surprising for me. And then we have some shared code here. So quickly, I think my browser somehow started to load. Okay, so I have shared, then I have common main, then I have iOS main. So I just show you guys a quick sample here. Let's say like I have this greeting function. So this greeting function, I want to show platform version in reversed order on both Android and iOS. So I make this class here, and this platform is actually You can say for iOS, it will have different implementation. For Android, it will have different implementation. So that's why we use this keyword called expect. So it's expecting implementation in iOS and Android. Then I will show you like how is it implemented in iOS. In iOS, it's basically using the UI device, current device system name and system version. On Android, actually, it's using something like this kind of version of SDK. And I can run my Android directly from here. So when I run, like, I will show you how it looks like on the device. So you guys can see, so you guys can guess what is this Android version. Please write in comments on Facebook or YouTube. Okay. So then I will show you Xcode, right? So at the same time, it actually generates Xcode project for you, which you can open in Xcode. And here, the interesting thing is like it basically shows you kind of like simulator target or the device target. So I'll just run this on simulator. There are no issues or something. And then you can see like, okay, so it is iOS, whatever version you can write in YouTube for this. Okay, so yeah. So yeah, so I think this actually kind of conclude my talks because I would like to like get more questions from you guys. And if you have like any questions, please feel free to ask in YouTube. I will drop by later to answer. And some of the resources here are I have mentioned here. You guys can take a look at them later. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hassan, for the great session. I love that you already did a sample on your own project. So we've got a question from the audience. This is July Quilloa. I think she also did mention that she was your biggest fan, or he or she. So for the named arguments, how does it map to the variable? Is it based on the order of the parameters that you didn't specify? And yeah, asking for a friend.
Okay, so basically, it's independent of position now. So once previously, what you had to do is like, if you want to like just use the named arguments, then position doesn't matter. So let's say I have my argument, let's say at the end, then you can just write that argument at the beginning. If you have the named argument, like let's say my argument is age integer, I declare as an integer, but actually I can have also a default value. But usually, like when we write functions, we usually have those default values. So yeah, so these are both positional or it can be irrespective of the position if you name them. But previously, the problem is like once you start naming them, then you have to name all of them followed by it. But now with new Kotlin, actually you don't need to do it. Even you can leave them out if you have a default value.
Thank you, Hassan. Okay, there's this one that's a quick question. I think you'll be able to answer this in a yes, no. Can we develop iOS application using Kotlin?
100% you can. There are some apps in App Store actually purely written in Kotlin. But obviously, what you can do is like you can use the Kotlin features. Let's say you cannot hire a person who is very good with Swift or Xcode, right? You can write all that logic in Kotlin, use the Kotlin native platform. But obviously, like you will get, like you might have to run this project on Xcode also. So I'm not sure like what kind of features you are using, what kind of libraries you are using. If you're using all the native things, not many third-party libraries, then it might be okay. There are many apps out there in App Store which are written purely in Kotlin.
Okay, thank you so much for that. question. And there's this one that two people asked the exact same question, so I assume that it's an upvote. So, okay, in the earlier stages, adopters mentioned that there were some compiling issues for iOS part. How is it different now?
So I just showed like with this update of Kotlin 1.4, I haven't written any app in Kotlin for iOS by myself. But I think anyone asking question can go and check Kotlin 1.4, what's new with Kotlin native, especially for iOS. There are still some limitations you have, but actually Kotlin team and JetBrains is working very hard to resolve it. But there are many new updates in 1.4. They can go and check out on their blog and try them out, because it's been released, I think, less than 1 month. And I forgot to mention, there will be Kotlin 1.4 event that's coming up in October 12 to 16. So I highly recommend everyone to go check out. And there are some sessions for Kotlin native, especially for iOS developers, if they are interested to use Kotlin.
Cool, cool. Thanks for plugging the event. If you don't mind, you can drop this link in the comment section later so that they can also take a look at it.
Yeah, sure. So this year, actually, Kotlin conference was going to held in Canada. I bought my ticket and everything, but it got cancelled because of COVID. So now they will have an online event here.
Yes. Thanks so much, Hassan. I think there's still a lot of questions coming in from YouTube and Facebook. So do head over there to continue answering them.
Okay, sure.
So just conscious of time. Let's thank you so much. Let's welcome our third speaker for today.
And yes, our third speaker today is Popo. And Popo is an experienced software engineer, over 6 years of experience in Android and iOS application development. So Popo is super passionate about mobile technologies and smart home systems. I'm a fan too. And last but not least, she's one of our recent Women Developer Academy graduate. So yes, another women in tech speaker. Over to you, Popo.
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. Today hello everyone. Today I will talk about the creating Android library for the seamless integration. I think most of the developers are quite familiar with consuming the other Android library, but we are not like very familiar with like creating our own library. Maybe some for doing the open source project. So a little bit about myself. My name is Popo Misoi. I'm a software engineer at Shi. I'm responsible for the mobile team and the mobile-related product development. So before we dive into like coding, that will be so maybe like we will create a library for the as a third-party library, or maybe we want to create an in-house library for that. So if we decided that, then there's one thing to choose is before writing any coding is a build type. So how you like to deliver your artifact? There's two types for the Android library. One is a AR file, and then another one is a jar file. So jar is like convenient for like if you have a multi-platform and then you want to reuse your code in the like front end, back end or something like that. But if you want to include all these Android related resource file, or you want to take advantage of the manifest file or something like that, you would prefer the AR file. Of course, after you choose the format, then we can start thinking about designing the API. So mostly most of the library is a lot of thinking will go into the a lot of our will go into the thinking how to design properly the API instead of like flat out writing the code, because you are not just designing just for your own use, but you are thinking about how other people will use it, and then you want mostly the ease of the application usage as well. So yeah, this is like every library has some kind of initialization, and then we always like have a lot of library integrated into our app. There will be like multiple library at the start of the app, and then you will have different kinds of library like Firebase, Facebook, or all these. So this is every library have a different kind of step. So we will have here is I grab a screenshot of a Firebase SDK, and then yeah. So the best thing is like for the ease of adaptation, you want your library to be as easy as possible to integrate. So here is like for Firebase, it's like very easy because you only have one line of code for the integration. So this is like what we should target, like to have a like easy integration. So the first rule is like avoid the multiple argument. You don't want your library have too many arguments that are unnecessary as well. Like here, I have low level and environment, which might not be any important for that. So to avoid this kind of like multiple argument section, argument constructor, you can do is like you can have your you can use a popular Java beta pattern. So it will simplify the creation of the object, and then also the design pattern will let you separate the required and optional parameter. In this case, I might require the context and maybe the API key, but low level and environment are not required. So I can use a builder pattern, and then if I use a builder pattern, my integration line is very so there will be required is a context and the key, and then low level become optional. I can comment it. You see, I comment the environment part. So this is a way of reducing the multiple argument. Another one is if you don't want to use a builder pattern, another thing is you can create an entity object which doesn't have anything business logic or any logic. It's just accepting the data and then passes to the initializer. So for that is like now I have a configuration class, and then I have a constructor with a context and a key again. So the low level and environment are also optional. After object creation, you can set it if you want, and you don't need to set it at all if you don't want to use it. So there will be always a default value inside it. So it's like you just create the client with one parameter like config. Another one is after you have decided how initialization should be for the class, then you want to enforce the types as well. So in here is I have a low level and environment, which might be like some static variable. So here is like I have a def as a string static, and then but developer may not get the JS, or maybe because I don't enforce the type, they will put whatever they want for the value. So we don't want that. We want to have a control as much as of the initialization. So one way to do is that you use an init to enforce a type. And so now I have like a dev staging and production. All these are they cannot put any value like string. So it's type safe. And another one, of course, the Android support annotation is a type that is a in kind of thing as well. So you can create your static environment there, pro staging, all these, and then you use a string def for that. So it become one. The good thing about the annotation is that annotation is this one will be like if you put any other value, there will be a lint warning as well. So the IDE will tell you that, oh, this is not the value I want. So after the initialization step is done, so you now have a client, and then you have all these initialization steps. Another one is like you have your own like function that the client will call it. So you want to denote all these as well, like for the like thread declaration we are also here making use of the Android annotation as well. So here I have a like full method, and then I denote it's a any thread. You can call from any thread, or maybe you just want it from the UI thread or main thread. Then you just annotate it, and then the IDE will have a link warning if I call from any other thread. Yeah. So this is also a good way that letting the developer know that this function only can call from the certain thread. So it will not happen like they call you return the callback from the background thread, and then they don't know it, and then maybe have a toast when toast or dialog box appear after that in the main UI thread. Maybe that will happen, and then the app might crash. So this is a good practice to make use of the Android annotation. So so after all this, then you know like how most apps started look like. So maybe I have like all these different library integrated. I have a Facebook SDK. Yeah, it's an analytic manager. I have my own class to wrap all the analytic manager, and then I have another library, etc. So all these have like my application on stack will be like a good chance of code. These are all these are just studying or initializing the library only. What will happen is that if you have a lot of library integrated on the startup of the app, your app become slower and slower because all these libraries are hogging the startup of the application. Then what you want to do is that you might want to use the you might want to initialize your app from the background, like using on other different thread or maybe like thread pool, and then initialize all your SDK in the background. So, and if your library use like any permission, need any permission, then instead of like because for me is our library is that we're not asked permission directly from the user. So what we do is like we check the permission whether the app already has it. Then we will use the we will make use of that permission and then collect the data or do something about it. So it's a good way is that you always check whether this permission is already granted from the application, granted by the user to the application integrated your library. So instead of like asking directly to the permission. And another way is like, let's say I want to use now I want to use a location. I want to know the user location or something like that. Then I might want to use like a Google Fields location provider. But the thing is that I don't want to make my SDK bulky by adding the dependency inside the SDK as well. So what I could do is that I can check whether this library or is already existed on the application. So here I just check whether Google location Fields location provider is already integrated to the app, or otherwise I will if already integrated, I will use a Fields location request helper, which is using a Fields location API. Or if not, I will just use another one that is a location request is already present for the provided by the Android API. So then my SDK is slimmer, and then I don't need to put any other third-party library together, banded together with my SDK. So so you have your SDK out there already, but you have like a functionality you want to remove. Then as a responsible developer, you cannot remove your feature without any notice. So you need to use like maybe like deprecate function, deprecate annotation, and then say that this will be maybe like removed in the future, and notify the developer as well, like in the chain log or something like that. That this will be removed in which version or when will be removed as well. So yeah, I think most of the developers know that this is a memo is a do not log in production, but sometimes like you test your code, like mostly for SDK is like we have a maintain node not to use the print function. So sometimes we were just like how to say, we want to debug something and then we want to print the log, and then it happened. It's like later you forgot about it. You forget about it when you release the app, and when you release the SDK, and then it was become in the it's now in the production SDK or something like that. So the good practice is that we always have a log class which will identify and which will log only in the specific build, like debug bay or something like that only. So we also as developer not to use like print function and only use this class to log. Otherwise, you put a lot of like a print or any other thing, and then it will become in the production as well. So next one is that because the SDK are integrated to the app, and then if SDK is something wrong, crash, most of the client, the app integrated your SDK will not be very happy about it, because yeah, nobody want that. You don't want people will be like, it's okay if they crash their own app, but not because of other people. So it's like the best thing is like you always catch your exception, and then based on like what exception, let's say class, instead of also generally catching every expression, you also like maybe like this one where might throw the class not found exception, and this one will throw this exception, so that like fallback, and then you catch it. So in that way, there will be no accidental crash. And another thing you can do is that you can also, of course, you can send to your server back for the error log as well, like what has happened with this function or something like that. But the thing about the SDK is like we cannot use other third-party crashability kind of thing. So we have our own system or like logging all these error. Yeah, I think recently like a lot of app crash, and because of the popular library. And then I check it, and it's because like the response code is changed or something like that, and then all the app integrated to that library will crash. So then it's I think it became the problem is that the misunderstanding between the like backend and also the front end what can handle as well. So like even in the API response or something like that, you always catch the exception while passing the response. What are the response code you expected, and then which if it's not the response code you expected, what will you do? And then all these should be like considered. And also like backend in API as well, they should use like versioning and then not to push to the production without consulting the mobile team or something like that. Mobile is like you cannot take back or deploy like within an hour, like if you make something crash, and then you can, for backend, like you can redeploy or you can rebut it back. But mobile is like once the code is out there, you cannot take it back. So it's hard that you need to think clearly, and then also like how to say, like future proof or something like that, to know that this could be happening. So make the contract, and then everyone should respect the contract. Do not change the response or anything like without consulting or without bumping the version. Yeah, after the like all these consider, then what you need to do is like you need to document everything, like you will not be forever in this project, so you need to document what is the intention of each thing you do. And then and also of course like the best practice is that you have a code review, and then like even then that you need a record for that. So document everything, and then once the SDK is released, provide the proper documentation for the integration as well. Like everything is like laid out properly, and once you have a multiple versioning, you provide the change log, what has changed in each version, what are the which function are deprecated, which are the newly added feature, and what might there might be like any problem or anything or something like that. And for the also provide example project or sample code for them to try out as well. So I have this most of the thing are also written on a Myint as an article. You can check it out as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Popo. Sunyat says hi on Facebook. Hi, Sunyat.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Thank you.
meanwhile,
Session.
Sorry?
Especially all your best practices on how to be a responsible SDK developer. There's like so much learning and takeaways from this session. Love it.
Yeah, it's because we did a lot of like different client, and then some of the I mean, it's kind of like learning curve, and then the growth as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have like 6 years of experience, right?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, but mostly this one. So it's not long ago I worked on the this kind of enterprise solution SDK. Previously I was working just mainly the app. So it's also a bit of learning curve for me as well. Like I have never done the releasing this kind of SDK or something like that. Mostly I have released maybe open source project, and then you don't really make effort in that as it's a pet project. So this a bit of a learning curve. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, feel free to share the link in the chats as well, so that the audience can head over there after the session. Yeah, meanwhile, while we are waiting for some questions to come in, we can go through some questions we got during registration. So the first one is, when should I use the builder pattern versus parameter object? What's the benefit of one over the other?
I think it's a preference, because both are you want to separate out like conceptually, you want to separate out the logic of the required and the optional parameter, and both can do the same way. So for me, it's I don't have any preference over which to use, but naturally I prefer builder pattern with the Java, because Java is you can you don't use we don't do what is that called public variable kind of thing. But for Swift or Kotlin, I might use a parameter object pattern as well. So it's easier to I need to write more code in that for this language, instead of just use a parameter object and then just create the entity, and then it's very easy to use in Swift and Kotlin. But for Java, it's I don't. It's just a preference. I don't like it using the creating the public variable. I don't think. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
thanks for sharing. Yeah, and I think one last question. How do I ensure backward compatibility and protect against breaking changes when I update my SDK?
So I think this is more of a backward compatibility. Is you think about a bit of future-proof thinking as well when you design the API. What could break in the future, and if something if drastically change, you just give time for the developer to migrate to higher version, and then you don't just remove or something like that functionality. So it will be it will give time to migrate to the newer version, and then the current version will stay work as well. So for us, it's like we don't normally like just remove the version or something like that, so that it's always like. And also in the future version, I also make sure backward compatible by like a lot of things through is just think through about the like designing when designing the SDK. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think there's a couple of questions on YouTube. So after your session, yeah, you can head over there to answer them.
Yeah. Sure.
Thank you so much, Popo. I love you being a responsible SDK maker.
Thank you.
So I'll be moving you backstage. Thanks, Popo.
Thank you.
All right, what a great night today.
Yep. Thanks again, Sakina, Hassan, and Popo for such an insightful session. And thank you everyone for joining Lakopi today. If you would like to rewatch this session, you can always check it out on our Facebook page or YouTube channels. The speakers' presentation slides will also be available there over the next couple of days, so don't forget to check in. And do stay connected with us by signing up to our mailing list on our website, and you can find us on all our social channels as well. Yep. And also we have a couple of events coming up next week. We are really excited about this. So our next Startup Coffee Chat will be about user acquisition, and it's happening on Thursday, October 8th. And on Saturday, October 10th, we are actually, this is in collaboration with part of DevFest. So we are launching our first ever Ask Android Southeast Asia. Yeah, so do sign up on the links, and we'll see you next week as well.
And of course, lastly, we really want to hear your feedback. It's what makes every event even better. So provide us with your email address to stand a chance to win some gifts. We'll be selecting 5 lucky winners today. So remember to check your inbox later this week as well to see if you've won some of our lucky prizes. So just scan the QR code or go over to the link to fill out your feedback form. It can be anonymous, but if you drop your email, we'll send you some gifts maybe. So meanwhile, stay tuned for our upcoming events on our website and social channels, and we look forward to seeing you again. I'm personally super excited about Thursday, because we have the director of growth at Carousel actually sharing about how they do user acquisition. Best timing, right? After their recent raise as well. So do join us, and we'll see you around. And if you're an Android developer, which is why you're here, start today. We'll see you then.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.